This is Dante Williams, and you're watching
Dante's
Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
You watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So before this fight, Nicholas Walters, he made a prediction. He said, I will be knocking out Nonito Donaire in round 5 or 6. In return, Nonito Donaire, he said, once Nicholas Walters feels my power, he'll start running the rest of the night. I guess we now know who the prophet is, huh? We damn sure know who the prophet is now. Congratulations to Nicholas the Axeman Walters. This was his coming out party. He was extremely dominant. You could tell that Nonito Donaire, he felt the wrath of Nicholas Walters all around him. In fact, he talked about feeling overwhelmed in the post-fight interview, which I'll talk a little more about at the end of the video. Now, going into the actual fight, like I said before, previously, Nonito Donaire, he said that Nicholas Walters, once he feels my power, he'll start to retreat. It's interesting that Donaire would say something like that, because what I got when I heard that was Donaire was so used to relying on his power and having the power advantage over a lot of smaller fighters previously in smaller weight classes. So this time he gets in a ring with a guy who's just as strong as he is, if not stronger, because Donaire, he looks strong as well. But he gets in a ring with a guy just as strong as he is, has technique and a whole bunch of other things on top of the power. And now we see a different type of Nonito Donaire. Why? Because the main advantage that Donaire always had was minimized for the very first time. If you guys go back, I was just watching the Rigo versus Donaire fight the other night, and I just couldn't believe the size disparity by just looking at Donaire and Guillermo Rigo. Donaire looked like he was 2 or 3 divisions bigger than Guillermo Rigo in that fight. And then when you look at the Donaire versus Nicholas Walters fight, now you see someone who's around the same size, if not bigger than Donaire. So, Donaire can no longer bully someone with his power. Now, what was also impressive with Nicholas Walters is, once again, Donaire said, once he feels my power, he'll retreat. That is the exact opposite of what Nicholas Walters did, because we seen Nicholas Walters get caught and hurt pretty bad in the second round. He came right back in the third round, and it was right back to business. He continued to apply pressure on Nonito Donaire. Now, you got to give Nonito Donaire a lot of credit for taking this fight. He could have easily pulled a Mikey Garcia. He could have pulled a Leo Santa Cruz, but he didn't do that. He didn't say it's up to my promoters, it's up to my parents. He didn't say any of that. He took on a very tough opponent, okay? Another reason I want to give Donaire credit is because in the post-fight interview, he was so brutally honest with how good of a fighter Nicholas Walters was. He said, the guy beat the shit out of me. What I thought was really interesting, though, is when he said, man, the guy is just so overwhelming. He just overwhelms you. And, he pressures you so much. That's what he was basically saying. You would never expect someone like Donaire, with the type of power that he has, to be talking about someone pressuring him and just being so powerful. Wasn't it kind of strange to hear him say that? Because once again, we are used to Donaire always being the big power puncher. Just like when Canelo Alvarez gets in the ring with almost anyone, we're used to him being the power puncher. When Golovkin gets in the ring, we're used to him being the power puncher. But what happens when they are not the A side when it comes to power. What happens when their power is minimized because their opponent is as strong as they are or even stronger? And we've seen what happens to fighters like that tonight against Nicholas the Axeman Walters. Okay? So like I said, Donaire was really honest. He said, man, the pressure, he was just overwhelming. It's kind of like, if you guys really think about it, it's as if the walls were closing in on Donaire. The pressure, the pressure, the pressure. Pressure busts pipes, right? But we're not just talking about any type of pressure, because you have a lot of dumb pressure fighters that, they pressure you leading with their head, getting caught with 6, 7 punches because they don't have the intelligence or the defense. Okay? I was so impressed the way Walters was pressuring Nonito Donaire. Why? Because he was pressuring Donaire with an excellent jab. The jab was like a laser. It looked like an Ike Corte bazooka jab is what it really looked like. He's pressuring this guy, but he's catching him with jabs over and over. And it looked like that jab was reaching from one neutral corner all the way to the other neutral corner, because he has this massive reach advantage over Nonito Donaire as well. So it's really interesting, because usually the pressure fighter is the dummy, and he's usually following around a guy, and the boxer is usually just popping the shit out of him with the jab. But this was the other way around, where the pressure guy, he was popping the shit out of the person moving around the ring with the jab. How interesting is that, right? So the jab was the key to getting in the house, okay? It was the key to getting in the house. Once Nicholas Walters got in the house, he could pretty much let his hands go and do whatever he wanted to do. See, Nicholas Walters is an intelligent, aggressive fighter. He understands you can't just walk in there just trying to throw haymakers at Donaire. And he got a little taste of what happens when you try to do something like that in that second round when Walters got caught, and he kind of got rocked pretty bad. But see, after that, he wisened up, and this is once again the difference from an intelligent fighter, a fighter who can adjust, as opposed to a lot of fighters who cannot make the adjustments. Nicholas Walters, he realized that he got a little too greedy. He seen all these openings and he went crazy, and he got caught. And he made sure that he didn't get caught like that again in the fight. But when you look at the stance that Nicholas Walters has, the way his hands are up, and that wide stance that he has, which we know that type of stance is designed for power. You can tell the only thing on this man's mind, just by the way he stands, is to knock you the fuck out. Okay? That's what he's thinking. That's the only thing that Nicholas Walters is thinking, but he's doing it in an intelligent fashion. You're going to get hit in boxing, right? But he was able to nullify Nonito Donaire's attack and intimidate him because he has so much power. I was sitting here watching the fight with friends, and before Nonito Donaire got knocked out, at least a minute before, I noticed something. I noticed all of a sudden, Donaire, he stopped throwing power punches, and all of a sudden, he just started moving. He started constantly moving. It kind of reminded me a little bit of when he got caught in the 12th round against Guillermo Rigo, right? He got caught with a good shot. All of a sudden, he started moving. I noticed all of a sudden he was doing this in the 6th round before he got knocked out. And I said to my friends, I said, Donaire is hurt. Donaire is hurt. Because Donaire, he wasn't really throwing any power punches. He was just moving around the ring. And I think that Nicholas Walters, he sensed it, because he started to move even faster when he was pressuring Nonito Donaire. Once again, I go back to what Nonito Donaire said in the post-fight interview, because when you listen to what he said and then you go back and you watch the fight, then you could really understand what Donaire was talking about, because then you could really see the body language of Nonito Donaire. You could see him gradually getting broken down. I mean, a lot of us could kind of see that before Donaire even said it, but that's why I give him credit for admitting that he was breaking down. Nicholas Walters was breaking down Nonito Donaire, okay? That's the reason why Donaire all of a sudden he stopped punching. He started to clinch more. He was having a really difficult time dealing with the pressure of Nicholas Walters. I believe Nonito Donaire, he also talked about how he would catch the dude, with good shots, but he was surprised that Nicholas Walters kept coming forward. He could not discourage the Axeman. And that's exactly what we seen in the fight. And I almost failed to mention, the body shots played a major contribution in breaking Nonito Donaire down. I mean, he showed the complete package in this fight. So, once again, man, very impressive performance by Nicholas Walters. There is a new sheriff in town, that's for damn sure. And like I always say on my channel, it doesn't matter how many people like you. It doesn't matter how many people hate you. At the end of the day, as long as you keep winning, you will not be denied. Everybody can be against you, as long as your skills and your ability are not against you. As long as they don't fail you, it doesn't really matter if you're loved or you're hated. But speaking of being loved or hated, you gotta love this guy's personality though, right? Nicholas Walters, you gotta like the guy. Honestly, you would think, we know it's not gonna happen, but you would think with a personality like Nicholas Walters, this guy is very humble. You've seen the love that he gave Nonito Donaire after the fight. He has the real cool ass Jamaican accent, and he speaks Spanish on top of that. Seriously, how often do you see a boxer that speaks Spanish with a Jamaican accent? How often do you see that anywhere, right? So when you consider the fact that Mexican fans are some of the biggest boxing fans in the entire sport, you have a boxer who's not Mexican, but he does speak Spanish. He has a great personality. Realistically, if this was, a colorblind world, then Nicholas Walters, he would be loved just as much as a Mikey Garcia, a Lomachenko, or a Sergio Martinez. He would be loved just as much as they are. Don't get me wrong. He's respected like crazy because he just knocked out Donaire. But it's a difference from being loved and being respected. Okay? Golovkin, Mikey Garcia, Juan Marquez, those fighters are loved. Fighters like Keith Thurman, Nicholas Walters, those fighters are respected. There is a difference. So, who knows? Maybe one day, Nicholas Walters, he'll get that same type of love because he deserves it. Wouldn't you guys agree with that? This guy is great for the sport of boxing. He knocks fighters out. The first man to knock out Nonito Donaire, a man who had never even been knocked down before. And you guys know when I see him, again, I'm going to ask him that question, right? Because last time I interviewed him, I said, who's the hardest puncher you've ever faced? And he didn't want to give Guillermo Rigo credit, even though Rigo had damn near broke his eye socket, had him backpedaling in the last round. He still wouldn't say, it was Rigo. He said, nobody on the elite level. It was some Mexican guy, earlier on in my career. I don't think he's going to say that if I ask him that question now, right? So, yeah, man, it was a very good fight. Nicholas Walters is a monster. I would be very surprised to see people jump at fighting this guy. He does remind me of a Julian Jackson. He's very intimidating and he applies a lot of pressure. But I think he's far more smarter than a Julian Jackson. Okay? That's the difference. Once again, applying pressure with intelligence. That is the scariest thing to deal with, or the scariest type of fighter to deal with. And one more thing I want to touch on before I end this video. Since we do specialize in speaking the whole truth on this channel, I want to talk about this as well. And I could talk about this because it's you guys out there that keep sending me these messages. And I'm responding to those messages right now. You know, I get a lot of people, since I've been doing this YouTube thing, you learn a lot about racism. I'm telling you guys. You know, some of you guys say, why you talk about racism? But if you read the messages that I read on YouTube, you learn a lot more about racism than you know. Trust me. Okay? Since I've been doing this, which I've only been doing this for about, what, 2 years now, I've had so many people post messages saying, some people just flat out say it, you know, oh, black fighters are boring and this and that and, you know, whatever, whatever. And then you have a lot of other people that will, you know, allude to saying something like that, but they won't come straight out and say it. But other people are, you know, they'll just straight out say it because once again, you know, you remain anonymous when you are on the computer, so you can be as honest as you want. All right. So anyway, for the people who say stuff like that, and I'm just talking to them alone, for you guys who send messages like that, oh, the blacks are boring, black people in general, stereotyping all black people like they don't know who Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier are, you know. But anyway, this is all I want to say to you guys. You have intelligent boxers, you have dumb fighters, you have counter punchers, brawlers, boxer punchers in every single race. Okay? There is no such thing as a race where every single fighter fights the exact same way. There's just not. If you look at fighters like Mikey Garcia, Carlos Molina, Miguel Vasquez, Canelo Alvarez, Juan Marquez, none of those fighters fight like Julio Cesar Chavez, right? None of them do. And when it comes to just saying all black fighters are boring or something like that, what about Julian Williams? What about Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Nicholas Walters, Terrence Crawford? Are you going to honestly tell me that these fighters are boring? That's just something for you guys to think about. You have boring fighters, you have exciting fighters in every single race, every single nationality. And matter of fact, the more I think about it, I shouldn't even use the word boring. Because using the word boring, that's a person's opinion. And everyone has a different opinion. I'll just put it this way. Once again, you have people of all races and nationalities that share the exact same styles of boxing at the end of the day. And what's so sad is the majority of people that are listening to this, they know this already, but they just like to say it because it is a way of using code words. It's basically saying, I don't like that guy, but I can't come flat out and say I don't like him, so I'm going to use code words and say, oh, I don't like the way he keeps throwing that jab so accurately. Oh, the way he's moving his head and avoiding those punches. Boy, that sure is boring. Look at the great foot movement. Oh, that is just boring. This guy is killing me, right? That's pretty much all it is. All you have to do is decode that shit. But we know what time it is. At the end of the day, we know what time it is. I'm on to the next one.